gang. So, Owen, there's something interesting this week. Do you know what this week is? Can you tell the kids? Say, it's Pentecost. Well, Owen, what's Pentecost? Oh, it's the time when we wear red in the church, right? Red. Yeah, you were going to tell them about it? Well, Owen and I, we're going to tell them the story. Owen and I want to tell you a really cool story. So, a long time ago, when Jesus had already risen, and he had come back from the grave, and he had seen his friends and talked to them. And he told them all kinds of stories and said that they were going to be the ones that were continuing to do his ministry into the world. And then after he said to them and to us that we were going to be part of what continues on, he said, okay, now it's my time to go. And so he went up into the sky, up ahead. And that's ascension that we talked about not too long ago. But then a little bit after, they're really sad. They're missing their friend, and they don't know what to do. And so they gather together in a room, and something happens in that room when they're kind of sad and a little bit lost on what to do. Have you ever been that way when you're like in your room and you don't know what to do and you wonder where, is there a project or an art or a craft or is something going on and maybe everybody else is playing games or maybe doing work or stuff and you're kind of bummed out by yourself? Well, that's kind of how they felt. They didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden something happened. Something really interesting happened. The Holy Spirit comes as tongues of fire down from the sky. So I feel like I'm missing something on my head. So maybe let's start and let's make some little craft first before we get into our bigger craft. Because you see, I need something for my head. So I want you to find something around your house that maybe could become some kind of crown. So I have this thing, which is for like crocheting. Is for embroidery. I don't use it a lot, right? But I've used it for a crown. I've got some of these pipe cleaners, right? So anything that we can make into a crown, we're going to do. Now I'm going to use this one, but you can use whatever. And then I'm going to take some tissue paper. And I'm going to put it in between here. Alright. And then I'm going to put it on my head and remind us while we're doing our craft that we have fire. Now, what is fire? Fire is something we got to be really careful about, right? So maybe sometimes people are grilling or maybe you're at camp and you've seen fire and you should remember that you have to be very careful because fire can be really dangerous and hot. But for them, it wasn't burning their head. It was saying, wow, here's a great idea. Sometimes you'll see something called an exclamation mark over people's head. Like all of a sudden in their face and their eyes do this, like they've just figured it out. And that's a little bit what happened. The Holy Spirit came to them and it gave them inspiration. It gave them new ideas. And they could all talk together and figure out what to do next. And then they went from there and they shared all about Jesus and his story with others. So we've got our fire over our head. Now they talked about tongues of fire. And if you want to draw a tongue on your head, you can totally do that too. But just get yourself in the right, we call it mindset. We're going to put ourselves in the right mindset. So we've got that now. Now today, one of the neat things to do is if you have this stuff called tissue paper. And they kind of call it tissue paper. I don't know if it's the actual reason, but you can feel it. It almost feels like toilet paper, right? So it's like a tissue when you blow your nose. It's that kind of paper. So it's really thin. And if you look close, you might almost be able to see me behind it. But if you hold it up to the light, you definitely can see the light behind it. Now there's lots of ways that you can make things that will help you hold this tissue paper together. Now some of you might have a thing called contact paper at home. Some of you might have wax paper at home. But if you don't, that's okay. You can use whatever you've got. As long as you've got a little bit of tissue paper, we can make this work. So I'm going to do kind of the easier version. If you do the non-contact paper and wax paper, you have those at home, ask your parents to help you or your grandparents or whoever is around as an adult, and they'll show you kind of, because what that will do will hold your pieces in place. But what you want to do is you want to start with a sheet of paper. Now I'm going to use black because it'll really bring the colors out through. And you can do all kinds of things though. One of the designs has a dove on it. So, you can do that with, we can kind of make a bird. And I'm going to make, bird's wings out here. And I'm going to just try to do this quickly with my own cutting. Now you can design your bird however you want. Now why a bird, you wonder? Well, one of the images for the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is one of those things we've talked about before in church, but I'm going to remind you again. We say we have a triune God. Tri. 1, 2, 3. 3 and 1. So we have a God that has 3 different types of. So God, the Creator, who made everything. Jesus, the Son, who loves us and is our best friend. And then the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit's that one that brings inspiration and hope. And so sometimes that comes as fire. Sometimes it comes as water. And sometimes it comes as wind. And so who flies around in the wind? There, with my silly little bird. And you can draw your bird however you want. You can make it look whatever you want. I'm going to just touch up a little bit though. So the bird is usually a dove. Now for the adults who are watching, do you know that a dove is the French version? The word also, we talk about doves as like there's a French and English version for the 2 words. So in one translation, it is the word dove. Between the French and the English, and then the other translation, it is pigeon. So when you see those pigeons, that is the same thing as a dove. And so think about the Holy Spirit as a pigeon. And if that is something that interests you, I recommend my favorite devotional of all time is by Debbie Blue. It's a book called Consider the Birds, and that is a great book all about the theology that comes from birds. So here's my cool little dove. So I'm going to take my dove, and I'm going to make sure, maybe even to say, okay, how do I put this dove on this paper? Okay, so I've got a little bit here. I'm going to use this to frame around the dove. So what I'm going to do is cut out the middle of this. All right, and I'm going to cut it real tight to this black paper. Make myself a frame. Now this week, adults and kids, I will not be doing the service on Sunday. We have a special guest, our bishop, and our district superintendents are going to do the whole Pentecost service for us. So I will link that to you, and you can follow them this week. But you're getting to hear kind of what I'm saying about Pentecost right now. So here's my dove, and he's ready to go in here. But he needs stuff behind him, and that's where we're going to put the tissue paper, okay? You don't have to put a dove. You could put just the fire. There's all kinds of different things you could do. Now, with this, if you leave it one sheet, you're going to have a much better chance of the light coming through the one sheet. So I'm going to just cut a piece. Now you're wondering, okay, Pastor Shanna, I see red, but does it have to only be red? No. Fire has lots of colors in it. So I'm going to actually do a blue near the center of the bird. And that's not for water, but it's actually, if you look close at a fire, you will see that the center of it is often blue, and that's where the hottest is. So I'm going to put that right around my bird. Now, the benefit of having like a wax paper or something, it's going to hold it in place, but I've got a thing called double-sided tape, and I'm going to use that here, okay? I'm going to get my tape going. And this is, remember, we try to do these crafts with whatever you already had at home, because we don't want you to have to feel like you got to go out and get something to do your craft. So if you already had stuff at home that will work, go ahead and look around. Get creative. I know you can. So I'm going to just take my double-sided tape, and I've not used it before, so I'm going to start off with this. Get that first part of it off. There we go. And I'm just going to put a little of that double-sided tape on the back of my bird and put the tissue paper down. So, see, now they're starting to stick. So if you look through, you can kind of see where the light's going to hit. All right. And I'm just going to tuck my bird in to the frame. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave the frame from you, and I'm sorry my arm looks huge at that angle. Let me switch that up. That's all you're seeing is arm. Sorry about that, gang. Alright. Put the bird in here, and see, so now we're starting to see how if I hold this up in a window, I'm going to see light coming through. Owen just got really excited by the idea. He's looking forward to it. He's not very patient. I know. It's hard to wait. You want to see how something looks. Okay. Now we're going to cut a little yellow, and I'm going to put that up at the angle here at the top. Alright. What is your favorite color? My favorite color is that blue. That's called aquamarine, and I love aquamarine. Aqua, like water, and marine is also like water, so those are words that are water words. I also like purple a lot. What do you like? Do you like green or orange? Do you like yellow? So we're starting to see, and now when we hold this up to the light, it's going to be awesome. All right. And you don't have to use scissors. You can go whoosh, And that's part of the fun too on tissue paper, because it does pull away really quick and easy, and you can be super strong when you rip it apart. So now, do you see how those colors are starting to come together, and it's looking like a stained glass window? Now, if you're a member of First United Methodist Church, you know we've got stained glass windows. If you're not, you probably have seen stained glass windows around you in other churches. So you see that lots of different colors is really fun, and that's going to remind us of fire. Now, if you choose to do one with like out a bird and just about fire, that's okay too. You could choose just to put red in. You could, if your favorite color is green, you could make a stained glass window with lots of different colors of green, whatever you want to do, okay? And see, we're getting that angle. Oh, we're almost done with this one. And remember, you can make it look however you want. I want to see how cool they look. All right. I'm just going to rip a little bit because that's really fun. I'm going to put a piece of orange down. I'm going to rip a little green just for the fun of it. All right. Okay. All right. And now, wow, look at that. Isn't that cool? It's going to be really cool. Look, when I put a little light behind it, we're going to try it with these lights right behind me. But I want to make this look like a frame, so I'm going to come around the sides and I'm going to cut this down so it stays within the frame. Now, adults, this is a kid's version of this craft, but you can actually make some really amazing looking crafts with tissue paper as stained glass for your own window. Right now, it's a very easy thing to do, but you can get very intricate. If you spent like an hour in here tearing off little tiny pieces, making a mosaic of sorts, this is a really cool thing, and I just cut a little of that black, which I didn't want to do, but that's alright. Alright. So these are not only, this craft is not only for children. I promise you, this is a craft you can make very delicate and very detailed. Really some beautiful stuff with these kind of stained glass window crafts. Alright, there is my stained glass window. Now, I am going to turn on the light behind me, and we're going to see if you can see the light through it. Now, the big goal is to put these on your windows, right? You want to put them on your window. Alright, but we're going to come up here, and you do see Mom jokes that I have to get the nativity off, but we like to leave our nativity up to remind us about Jesus' birth all year long. Alright, so, do you see how, get him down there. Do you see how the light is shining through, and it's going to be even better? Yeah, it's going to be even better when you do this in front of a window. So, okay friends, let that fire inspire you, and I can't wait to see what you've got coming up. Let's see those creations.